Welcome, first graders, to the Dallas Independent School District STEM Environmental Education Center. And we'd like to give a special welcome to a number of schools who are with us this afternoon. I think this might be the record for the most schools that have joined us in a single virtual field trip ever, even including last year. So we have O.M. Roberts, Lakewood, M.B. Henderson, Paul L. Dunbar, M.T. Riley, B.H. Macon, G.W. Truitt, Jose Joe May, Julius Dorsey, Martin Rice, Eladio Martinez, Jerry Junkins, Casa View, and Seagoville North, all with us this afternoon. That is 14 schools altogether. We wish you all could be here in person, but since you can't be, we're going to do our best to make you feel like you're here during a virtual field trip this afternoon. If you are watching this and have not registered for this field trip yet, you can still do that by going to www.tiny.cc/pk-2 registration to get yourself or your class registered for this field trip. And we just use that information for our attendance purposes. And this afternoon's field trip is going to be all about forms of energy. During this virtual field trip, students will identify and discuss how different forms of energy, such as light, thermal, and sound, are important to everyday life. So we're going to start things off with an introduction to energy by Ms. Schramm. Next, we're going to explore light energy with Mr. Monroe. Third, we're going to explore thermal energy with Mr. Mirez. And last but not least, we're going to explore sound energy with Mr. Dominguez. Now, while we're doing all of that, you can ask us questions if you have any, but since this is a virtual field trip, you're going to need to go to www.tiny.cc/question-answer to fill out a super short form to submit any questions you have for us related to forms of energy. You can ask as many questions as you like, and we'll do our best to answer all of them in the time that we have with you this afternoon. So let me turn things over to Ms. Schramm, who's going to get us started with the introduction to energy.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's me, Ms. Schramm. And like Mr. Bratton said, I am doing the intro to energy. So by the end of my section, you'll be able to identify and discuss how different forms of energy are important to everyday life. So before we get going, what is energy? Sorry, you'll meet that friend in a minute. So what is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. Energy is what allows us to move, run, jump, and play. Who uses energy? Plants use energy that they get from the sun as well as nutrients to grow. Animals, including us and this cute little doggy here, use energy and nutrients from their food to grow and to move and to play. Now, I have two friends. I don't know if one's going to participate, but I have two friends to introduce you to that use a lot of energy. So I'm going to stop sharing. And my one friend, his tail passed by, but he's WC, my cat. He might pop back up. But my friend that has a ton of energy is small, fluffy, and soft. He uses his energy to jump and run, and he eats lots of veggies, and sometimes he even escapes. So I'm going to introduce you to Peanut Bunny. Peanut Bunny is so energetic. He loves to play and run, and he gets really crazy. The other day, he got out of his enclosure out here at the Environmental Center, and I chased him around for 40 minutes. And I got tired, but he did not, because he has so much energy. He likes to eat like all sorts of salads. He likes to eat spinach and veggies. His favorites are cherry tomatoes and watermelon. So he loves those little fruits. And he eats a lot of things around here at the Environmental Center. So he is my example of lots of energy. Right now, he wants to go play. Oh, I'm so sorry, Peanut Bunny. So he's joining us today. And if our other friend joins us, WC, his name is Work Cat WC. He has so much energy. He could run up trees. He runs all over the place. And he loves out here too at the Environmental Center. But anywho, let's talk about different forms of energy. So let's see. Okay, so different forms of energy. We're going to learn about a few, but I wanted to list some of them for you. So we've got gravitational, sound, chemical, nuclear, mechanical, electrical, light, kinetic, solar, potential, and thermal. So all of these you're going to learn about eventually at school, but today I'm going to focus on just two, and the other teachers are going to tell you more. So I want to focus on potential and kinetic. So first, I've got an example of a little girl, and she's holding a ball. Now, if you notice, she's standing on the edge of something. It's like a big step, right? So she has the ball and she's holding it in front of her. And right now, while she's holding the ball has potential energy. It's not moving, but it does have the ability to move. Remember, energy is the ability to do work. So she's holding it there still, and that is potential energy. As soon as she lets go on the ball, this big arrow is showing a force that's put on the ball. That force is gravity. When you let go of something or drop it, gravity pushes on that object, and its potential energy is turned into kinetic energy. Kinetic energy means it's moving. So potential is still, it hasn't done anything yet, and kinetic means it's moving. So let's see another example. All right, so this is a car going up a hill. So as it's going up the hill, the energy is coming in. It's getting more potential energy as it goes up. Then when it's at the top of the hill, that's the peak of potential energy. It's not moving yet, but it has the potential to. Then as it goes down, it rolls down the hill and the energy is going out. That's showing its kinetic energy because it is moving. So it moves up and it moves down. All right, so we're gonna try some examples of that. So let's see, you coming back to me. And okay, so I'm gonna move Peanut Bunny, even though he seems pretty tired. This is his fourth field trip of the day. So excuse me, Peanut Bunny. Okay, now I'm going to grab a ball and hold it out in front of me. So when I hold it out in front, right now it has potential energy. When I let go, gravity acts on the ball and it has kinetic energy. And I can hold it up higher. Boom, same thing. Potential at the top when it's not moving, kinetic as it moves. Now, a more exciting example is what I have next. Now, if you were here with me today, you could play with these with me and it would be so much fun. But I had to build myself. So I have stem bins, and those are just different tools and toys that we can use to build and create and design different things. So the one I'm going to use today is my Marble Genius stem bin. So I'm going to scoot it down, and I've built a little tower. So we've got a little tower. At the top is a funnel. Then we've got a little windmill-y thing, and then a drop. Okay, so we got the funnel, the little spinner, and a drop. So if I take my marble, as I bring it to the top, it's at the peak of its potential energy. It's not moving yet. I'm holding it in place. But once I let it go, that gravitational force is going to act on the ball, and that's going to change its potential energy into kinetic energy. So let's see what happens. There it goes, slowly making its way towards the funnel. Ooh. And through the spinner and down the drop. Now, if I wanted to increase the amount of potential energy, I could add this little bridge. So this is like a little ramp bridge, and it starts off lower and goes up higher. So that's going to increase our potential energy. So let's see. I'm just going to scoot it. Let's see. Gotta get my camera right so you could see. All right. Then I'm going to take the marble, and it's going to start from here, an even higher point. So it's going to have more potential energy. I'm going to let it go. There it has kinetic energy. It is moving. And look at it go. Towards the center of the tunnel, and whoop, All right. So if I even want to extend it further, I have another bridge ramp, whatever. And it's even taller. So I'm gonna have to scoot you back and tilt you up. So hopefully you can see it with me. Woo! Okay. It's a balancing act over here. All right. Let's try even higher this time. All right, you can count down with me, even though I can't hear you. 3, 2, 1, go. So we increased that potential energy and it moved quite a bit faster through those ramps. The funnel still takes a while. All right, it made it through. So I'm gonna drop a few this time. And while they go, once again, this is like it's called Marble Genius. And it's got a lot of cool different parts that you could try. So this is only like a little bit of the kit. I have like a humongous box of more and more stuff. And these are super fun to play with. And if you're working on energy, you can use a lot of these spinners to even talk about friction and different forces. But we're not getting into all that today because as much as I would like to play with you, I have to share you with the other teachers, and you have a lot more to learn with them. So I'm going to send you back to Mr. Broughton for questions, and have a great rest of your field trip. See you next time.
Thank you, Ms. Schramm. The question that came in was, does sleep have anything to do with energy? And yes, it does. It is important for you to get a good night's sleep each night. I believe for students your age, you should get about 10 hours of sleep so that you can wake up rested and alert the next day and be ready to pay attention in school and do all the things that you need to do and have energy to learn and play all day long. All right, now we are going to explore light energy with Mr. Monroe.
Good afternoon, students. My name is Mr. Monroe. Can you see me? Well, you can probably see the outline of my body, but you can't see any colors, can you? You can't see what color my shirt is or whether I have glasses on or not. So you're missing a lot of details about the image that you're looking at simply because there is not enough light energy. And that's what we're going to be investigating this afternoon on your virtual field trip, the time that you're going to spend with me. Well, let me add a little light to the subject. Is that enough? You can see that I have glasses on, I have a mustache, right? Don't have any hair. I don't know whether you can tell that or not. So I think we need a little more light, don't you? Hang on. Wow, that was quick. That's a lot of light, right? And now you guys can really see me, right? Well, what is light? That's a big question. It is a type of energy, students. And usually when we see light, we see it as a color and brightness, right? Actually, what light is, it's actually an electromagnetic radiation. It's a form of electromagnetic radiation. It's partly electric and partly magnetic. Light flows in a straight line, guys. You know, light is made up of tiny little particles. I mean, so tiny, they don't even have any mass. And those little tiny particles are called photons. It's almost like, you know, this room is full of light. We can't see the little tiny particles, but all we think about is the light that surrounds us, right? Well, it's almost like you going to a beach. Oh man, you're all excited about being at the beach. You see all that sand out there. You don't even think about the little bitty tiny particles that are sand that is taking billions and billions of those little tiny pieces to make that beach, right? The same way with light. Well, to help you better understand light, energy, I'm going to show you a short presentation. And at the end of that presentation, I'm going to show you a variety of light sources, and we'll talk about those. Let me share my screen with you guys. And we'll get started. I hope you guys like science because that's what it's all about today. And it'll load up here pretty good. There we go. We got it. You know, if we're studying about or investigating light, we're actually studying science. Well, you know, light is how we see. So, you know, there's a question. What senses do we use to observe light? Well, I don't think you can smell it, can you? I think you have to actually see it. So we look at it. That's our observation. We have to look at it. Where does light come from? Wow. We know that it comes from a lot of different sources. Some of the sources that light comes from, it may occur naturally. Some of them may be man-made, and we're going to get into that a little later on. In fact, we'll do a little of that right now. Light seems to be all around us, but where does it come from? Now, when I turned the light switch on a minute ago, it just filled this room very quickly, didn't it? Light moves very fast, okay? Can you name some of the sources of light? I bet you can. In fact, the main source of light for the planet Earth comes from where? It comes from the sun. And I want you guys to remember that our sun, where we get our natural light from, is actually a star. And if you really think about it, it's not the only star that we can find in the sky, is it? Now, this image is the image of a candle. And we see at the very top of the candle, there's a flame. You know what? That's fire, right? So fire and the sun are perfect examples of what we call natural light. On the other hand, this light bulb that's in the next image, it is an example of man-made because we know that man manufactures light bulbs and electricity causes a reaction to go on in that light bulb to give off light, okay? What about reflectors of light? You know, later on as you get into the upper grades, you're probably going to learn about certain things that reflect light, that absorb light, that refract light, but there are objects all around us in our everyday lives. Sometimes we get the impression that those objects are actually giving us a source of light, or they are providing or making light. Well, guess what? Some of those things can quite fool you. In fact, I'll share this with you. When I was your age and I looked at the night sky, I was under the impression that this big old moon that would be full every so often was actually another natural light source. You know, these can look like a light source, but they're really reflecting light. How does light travel from a light source? Well, listen. Take, for example, the moon. I was under the impression that the moon had its own light. I was wrong. Later on, when I started paying attention in science class, I found out that the light that is given off by the moon is not really its own. It's actually a reflection from the sun that gives us our natural light. How does light help us to see? Well, let's go through that. Light is a type of energy known as an electromagnetic radiation. It is made up of photons, little particles of energy. Light travels as a wave, but unlike waves of water and sound waves, it does not need any medium to travel through, meaning it doesn't have to have something to help it go through. the means light can travel, that means that light can travel through a vacuum. And when we use the word vacuum, we're talking about an empty space, a completely airless space light energy can pass through. Take, for example, this classroom. If you were in my lab right now, you would see how high and vacant the ceiling is of objects. And it didn't take very long for the light energy to light up this whole room, just like that. Light waves travel out from sources of light in straight lines. These lines are often called rays or beams of light. Rays of light travel from a light source and hit objects around us. The rays of light reflect or bounce off an object and then travel into our eyes. This reflection of light allows us to see an object. For example, the light bulb is actually shining light rays on the chair, and then they bounce off the chair and they end up in our eyes. The ray of light is reflected off the chair and travels in a straight line to the girl's eyes in this image. It enables her to see the chair. Now, there are other items probably in your classroom right now that you are going through the same thing. You look at it, the light rays are hitting it, and then it reflects that image to your eyes. So that's the way it works, guys. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to look at some light sources and some of my favorite light sources, and then we'll talk a little bit more about light energy. Okay, I'm back. Now, the photon, which is those little tiny particles, energy particles that make up light, it has no mass. And I relate it to you thinking of a photon as a little tiny grain of sand on a beach. And that's about the way that a photon is with a light source. Now, there are a variety of light sources, and I'm going to start with the sun. I want you to think about there are some things on our planet that if it wasn't for the sun, they would not grow. I want you to think about that. The sun is a natural source of light energy, and our planet needs that sun, right? Now, are there other natural forms of light energy on our planet? Sure, there are. And there's some of them that we can see in our night sky. Remember what I said? The sun is a star. So our night skies are filled with stars, right? So can you imagine all those billions of stars that are in the night sky? Those are sources of natural light energy. How about the candle? I have a candle right here, and I want you guys to look at the flame. I'm going to light it. I can get it lit. Can you imagine many, many years ago, people didn't have man-made light sources like we have today, and they used candles, even to do homework by, even to do other things. The candle was used to provide a light source for people to do things that they needed to do in the dark. Now, I can only imagine, because this candle's not giving off very much light. Now, candles today, not only are being used to give off a little bit of light, but most of the candles that are lit today, guess what? They have a smell to them, a fragrance. And so basically that's what they're used for today. Now, that smells pretty good. Blow that out right quick. Now, I have a variety of light sources. In fact, I'll go back and say this candle is an example of a natural light source. Fire is considered to be a natural light source, okay? Now, probably one of the light sources that you are really, really familiar with, a lot of people have flashlights. And you know, I've seen some very long, I've seen some big flashlights, but this one I call Mighty Mite. I call it Mighty Mite because it's real small. And I tell you what, The light rays, the light beams that this thing can give off are very, very strong. It's my favorite because it doesn't take much to hold it. But if I show this to you, it is super bright, and it will shine for a long ways. I usually carry this in my vehicle all the time because if I ever have an emergency and I want people to see me, this particular little flashlight has an adapter on it that will flash like that to let people know that you are there, okay? And you may need help, all right? There's another source of light. Now that's man-made, right? There's another source of light. I call this Handy Bright. Well, the name of it is Handy Bright. Whenever I'm working on my old truck, this one, it has a handle. I can hang it up and turn that on, and it's super bright too. It's really funny. They now have come out with these LED light bulbs and these little mini things. Man, they are super bright. Look at that. That is super bright. Wow. You know, man-made light sources usually have to have a switch or a knob, like this lamp here has to have a knob to turn it on. And this lamp, it has something to kind of control the light beams. You know, if I take it off, it's super bright. But if I put it back on, the light beams cannot shine through the shade as strongly as they shine out in the open. Remember what it said about light? Light travels in what? Straight lines, right? Here's another light source right here. This one has a string to pull. And a lot of the old-fashioned lights, guess what? You had to pull a string to get those started. Now, one more light that I want to show you, and it is my favorite. I spend a lot of time out in the woods. Either I'm hunting or maybe putting out wildlife cameras or maybe even just to take photographs of animals out in nature. And a lot of times I will leave and go out and be walking through the woods well before daylight, well before the natural light source sun comes up. And so I have a very special hat that I wear. This is it. It allows me to carry all the equipment that I'm carrying into the woods without having to hold a flashlight in my hand, simply because it has a light built into the bib of the hat. So many different man-made light sources that we have today. There is no need to be stumbling around in the dark anymore, okay? Now remember, there are natural sources of light. The sun is the main one, very important to us. And then we have fire, which is another one. And then students, I know that you have seen storms come in and you'll see the flash of light, which we call lightning. Lightning is considered to be a natural light source also. Well, want you guys to have a good day the rest of the day, and hopefully I've been able to help you understand a little bit more about light energy. I'm going to pass it back to Mr. Broughton in case some of you have some questions. I bet he can answer them for you. I want you guys to have a good day the rest of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. The question that came in from Caitlin was, is light a type of matter? And no, light is not matter. Light has no mass. So if you were to try to shine a flashlight on a balance or a scale, you would find that the balance of the scale is not going to move because light has no matter. And it also has no volume. So if you tried to shine a flashlight into a balloon to inflate that balloon, it would not work. But what light is, it's a form of energy. All right, now we're going to learn about another form of energy, which is thermal energy with Ms. Ramirez.
Hello, my name is Ms. Ramirez, and a special welcome to Cast of You. So today in this segment, we're going to be learning about thermal energy. So before we actually get talking about thermal energy, we're going to take a look at an animal friend that uses thermal energy to stay warm. So I'm going to give you a couple of clues to who this animal is, and then you guys can make a guess. So this animal has 4 legs. He has a long tail. He has spikes on his body, and he has a beard of skin underneath his chin. So think about, what animal do you know of that has 4 legs and a long tail and scales on its body? I'm going to go ahead and pull him out. If you guys said a lizard, you would be correct. This is Spike. He is a bearded dragon lizard. He gets that name because he has spikes along his body, and he has a pouch of skin underneath his chin, sort of like a beard. When he gets mad, he can inflate that beard really big, sort of like inflating a balloon, and he can do that to scare off animals. Now, Spike here is a reptile, so he depends on thermal energy from the sun to keep his body nice and warm. That is why inside his terrarium where he lives, he has a heat lamp that's using electrical energy and changing it into heat energy to keep him nice and warm. And I actually have a science tool in here, a thermometer. This lets us measure thermal energy, and I know that it's about 90 degrees underneath that heat lamp. So lots of animals, including us, depend upon the sun for thermal energy. So what exactly is thermal energy? It's simply the total kinetic energy of particles that make up a substance. Remember, Ms. Schramm said kinetic energy is just the energy of motion or movement. So the faster something moves, the particles move, the more thermal energy it has. So let's look at this bottle. We're going to say that these little beads represent the particles. Right now, they're not really moving, so it doesn't have a lot of thermal energy. But what happens when I shake the bottle? What's going to happen to the beads? Are they going to move or are they going to stay still? So when I cause movement, the beads are going to move all over the place, and that creates thermal energy. So motion creates the thermal energy. Now, why is that important? Because faster particles have more thermal energy. So take your hands. What is one way that we can make our hands nice and warm? Go ahead and see if you can show me. So you're going to take your hands and rub them really, really fast together. We're creating friction. We're rubbing two things together, and we can actually generate body heat that way as well. Keeps us nice and warm. So I said the word heat. Heat is simply the movement of that thermal energy. And heat will move from a warmer object to a cooler object. So heat makes things warmer. So that heat lamp is warming up the air around it, and it's keeping our lizard nice and warm. So the next thing we're going to do is we can actually use our senses to help us learn about thermal energy. I can look at a fire, or I can look at a candle, and I can just tell by using my eyes that it's probably going to be hot. I can also, if I accidentally touch it, but you don't want to touch hot things. Sometimes if you accidentally touch something hot, like this lamp, my sense of touch is going to tell me, ow, stop touching that because it's hot. So we can use some of our senses to help us determine or learn about thermal energy. We can also use science tools. So things like a thermometer. Thermometers help us measure the amount of thermal energy. You guys are probably familiar with the forehead thermometers by now. So that lets us know that our body actually has thermal energy too. And then outside, you probably see some of these thermometers. The way the thermometer works, there's a red liquid inside. When it gets hot outside, the liquid will actually rise to the top. It will expand. And that is because, remember, the motion of the particles of that red liquid, when it gets hot, those particles are going to be moving and jumping around, and it's going to cause that liquid to expand or rise. Then later on during the night, when it gets cooler, it loses thermal energy. And so you'll notice that the red liquid starts to go down in temperature. So to demonstrate how a thermometer works, I have a special science tool. It's called a hand boiler, and I'm going to use my body heat to help move this red liquid. So this is going to simulate how a thermometer works. So I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to put it gently around the little bulb, and you can see the liquid is starting to rise. This is very similar to how a thermometer works. When it gets hot outside, that red liquid will start to rise, and when it cools down, the red liquid will start to fall. So that's our thermometer. The next thing that we're going to take a look at are some little science toys or little experiments. The first one is my pretty mood ring. You guys are probably familiar with these little rings. Notice the color right now is blue. Here I have an ice pack. It is super cold. I'm going to put it on my ring. What do you think is going to happen to the color? So I'm just going to leave it there for just a second. Now, the warmth of the ring is actually going to move over to the cooler ice pack. Remember, heat moves from warmer things to cooler things. So notice my ring changed colors. Now it's green. Now I'm going to take my warm hand pack right over here. It's nice and warm, and I'm going to see what color my ring will change now. So we're transferring that heat energy. And now my ring is back to blue. I'm going to do the same thing with this super special type of slime. It's called unicorn barf. And right now we'll see that it's nice and dark blue. I'm going to put it on my flame on my candle. Now, when we use flames or fire, or we're working with hot things, we always want to practice safety. So you should never do this unless you have an adult with you. And I'm using tongs, so I'm not actually touching it. I'm just going to heat it up just a little bit, and we're going to see if it changes color. Now, these change color because they have something special in them called a thermochromatic liquid. Thermo means heat, chromatic just means color. So that just means they change color with heat. So my mood ring changes color with my body heat, not necessarily because I'm happy or sad, but it does change color. So here you can see it's turned from a dark blue to a light blue. My next thing I want to show you guys is just a quick example of thermal energy here at the Environmental Center. So I'm actually going to share my screen with you guys, and we'll take a look at a quick little video. So this is thermal energy. We have a box turtle basking under that heat lamp. We have a red-eared slider enjoying the heat from that lamp as well. We have baby chicks enjoying the warmth of that heat lamp. So can you find the baby bird that is different? So which bird in here is not a baby chicken? See if you guys can find him. And hopefully you guys pointed out that little guy, he was a quail. This is my dog, Abby. And what do you think she's rolling in? What do you think used to be there? I'll give you a hint. It's been so hot and dry lately. What do you think used to be there? Water. That was actually a pond. So all the water totally disappeared. It evaporated. And she was actually rolling in thousands of dead snails. Those guys right there. So all those poor snails actually died because they lost their water. There's our lovely lake that we have, and that was our sun. The sun is a source of thermal energy because it gives us heat, but it's also light energy. It helps us to see. And of course, you should never look at the sun with your eyes. It could hurt your eyes. So here we have our special science tool. That's a thermometer. It measures temperature. So why do you think that thermometer has a higher temperature? It's almost 100 there, compared to this thermometer, which it's barely reaching 80. What do you think made the difference in temperatures? And then what animal has fur, gives us meat, and says moo is my last animal guess. And of course it was our cattle. We have CV the longhorn and a black Angus. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop my screen share, and I have one last question for you guys. See if you can give 3 examples of how you or your parents have used thermal energy today. And I'm gonna give it back to Mr. Broughton to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. The question that came in was, does eating have anything to do with energy, and in particular thermal energy? And yes, it does. We need to take in food energy every day. So it's important that you, when you wake up, you eat a good breakfast before you come to school or start school, and then eat a good lunch and also a good dinner, because your body is constantly losing energy. Even just sitting still, and even in your sleep, your body is losing heat energy or thermal energy. And you need to replace that energy with food so that you have enough energy to do everything you want to do during the day. All right, now we're going to move on to a form of energy we've been using this entire virtual field trip, which is sound energy, but we're going to learn a little more about that with Mr. Dominguez.
Hi, friends. In this part of your virtual field trip, me and my friend Higgs, our very special guest, are going to talk about sound energy, and we're going to give you guys some examples of sound energy. En esta parte de su paseo virtual, vamos a hablar un poquito sobre la energía de sonido y les vamos a dar unos ejemplos de sonido. Y mi amigo Higgs nos va a ayudar un poquito con uno de sus ejemplos de sonido, ¿verdad, Higgs? So let's see what he can do, guys. Let's see what example he's going to show us. Can you guys guess what example of sound my friend Higgs is going to show you guys. Keep an ear out. We're about to start. All right, Higgs, do you want to show our friends some of your sound energy? First, I'm going to need you to sit down, okay? So sit. I need you to sit first. Good job. All right. Now, what I need you to do, Higgs, is first, let's give everybody a handshake. So you ready for a handshake? Give me a handshake, Higgs. Handshake? Good job, Higgs. Now, you ready for the sound energy? All right, sound energy. All right, Higgs. Speak, Higgs. What beautiful sound energy, Higgs. All right, guys. I think he deserves a treat for showing us an example of sound energy. All right, Higgs, you ready for your treat? Yeah, I think he's ready. All right. So let's give him a treat. Super excited. All right, here you go, Higgs. He's a good boy. Pienso que Higgs nos dio un ejemplo excelente de un tipo de sonido que escuchamos casi todos los días. Un perro ladrando es un sonido muy común. I think Higgs did a wonderful job of giving us an example of a type of sound that we hear almost every day. A dog barking. It's a very common sound. But I want you guys to think of other examples of sound that you guys encounter every day. Quiero que piensen de otros tipos de sonidos que escuchan casi todos los días. So let's take a moment, let's pause. Vamos a pensar un poquito. What are other types of sounds? ¿Cuáles son otros tipos de sonidos that we hear every day, que escuchamos todos los días? I'll give you guys an example. Les voy a dar un ejemplo. A lo mejor reconocen lo que tengo puesto. Maybe you guys recognize what I have on. What are they? ¿Qué son? Son audífonos, ¿verdad? They're headphones, right? ¿Y para qué uso los audífonos? What do I use these for, guys? What do I use headphones for? To listen to what? I'll give you guys a few seconds. Para la música, ¿verdad? Music is another type of sound. It's a beautiful type of sound. Can you guys give me more examples? Take a moment, pause the video if you have to, and give me some of your examples. Espero sus ejemplos.
Wait. Remember what I was talking about, mosquito fish? Yeah. No, this is a tadpole.
Oh, cool. Oh, guys, I want to see a tadpole.
Ahora que hemos escuchado algunos ejemplos de sonido, mi gran pregunta ahora es, ¿cómo es posible que esos objetos hagan sonido? So now that we've heard some examples of sound, my big question now is, how are those objects capable of making sound? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how vibrations make it possible for sound to exist. Ahora lo que voy a hacer es demostrarles cómo las vibraciones hacen el sonido posible. Todo lo que necesitan es una copa de plástico y una banda elástica. So, for this demonstration, all you need is a plastic cup and a rubber band. So let's get started. Vamos a empezar. Aquí tengo mi copa de plástico y mi banda elástica. So here's my plastic cup and my rubber band. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to pull the rubber band over the plastic cup just like this. Todo lo que hice es poner la banda elástica sobre la copa así. Y ahora lo que quiero hacer es escuchar para cualquier sonido que esta copa o esta banda elástica haga. So now I'm listening for any sound that this cup or rubber band make. Is there any? ¿Hay un sonido? Escuchen bien. Y a lo mejor están escuchando a mis pollitos, pero les garantizo que esta copa o esta banda no está haciendo esos sonidos. So you guys might be hearing my chickens in the background, but I guarantee you that this cup or rubber band is not the source of those sounds. Maybe if I do this, I'll hear some sound. Listen, escuchen. ¿Escucharon un sonido? Did you guys hear a sound? Let's try that one more time. Sí hay sonido, ¿verdad? There is sound. And why is that? Well, it's because of the vibration. Hay sonido porque esta banda elástica está vibrando. Sin vibración, no hay sonido. So without vibration, there is no sound. So, in order for there to be sound, there needs to be vibration. Interesting. Ok, amigos, ojalá que hayan aprendido que el sonido viene en diferentes formas y que el sonido se escucha con los oídos. All right, friends, I hope you guys learned that sound comes in different forms and that you need your sense of hearing to listen to those sounds. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next time. I gotta check up on these animals. Hey, piggies. Hasta la próxima vez, amigos.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez. Let's do a quick recap of what we did today. So this afternoon's virtual field trip was all about forms of energy. During this virtual field trip, students identified and discussed how different forms of energy, such as light, thermal, and sound, are important to everyday life. So we started out with an introduction to energy with Ms. Schramm. Next, we explored light energy with Mr. Monroe. Then we explored thermal energy with Mr. Ramirez, and we just finished exploring sound energy with Mr. Dominguez. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about forms of energy with us. We hope you enjoyed this virtual field trip, and you can let us know whether you did or not by going to www.tiny.cc/pk-2 feedback and filling out a short feedback form for us. We hope to see you again in about 3 weeks during our next virtual field trip for fourth graders. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.